Welcome to the Dan Sports Tips daily fantasy preview show for the Barclays Premier League on Saturday the 10th of September. We're looking at the games that kick off at 3 o'clock for all sort of big games on Saturday. I'm going to be taking a look at how we can construct our fantasy roster. For $50,000 we need to compile a roster of a goalkeeper, 2 defenders, 2 midfielders, 2 forwards and a utility player. Points are scored like this. For anyone that hasn't had the opportunity to sign up and play daily fantasy sports with DraftKings yet, I'll pop a link in the description for this video right below. That will enable you to do that today. I'm going to be looking, as I say, at all the positions. Goalkeeper, there's a clear one for me today. It's Hugo Lloris of Tottenham. He's only $4,000. Pochettino has said that Lloris has recovered from the hamstring injury now. He's available for this game. He's a very low price against a team with a number of their better attacking options injured, including Shaqiri. A game that Spurs should be expected to win. I think Lloris looks an excellent option. He could potentially bag us the full 10 points, getting 5 for the clean sheet, 5 for the win, and any saves on top will be a bonus for that. The defenders today, Kyle Walker of Spurs, sticking on that thought. He's one of the more expensive defensive options at $5,700. He is every week because Spurs love to deploy the fullbacks going forward and supporting the attackers on the outside. Against Stoke, where you'd expect that they'll dominate possession and have excellent clean sheet chances as well, Walker should have an awful lot of opportunity to bomb down the flanks and earn points out wide, putting the ball into the box. Another fullback in the same vein is Hector Bellerin of Arsenal for $4,700. He was a revelation last year amongst attacking fullbacks. He's got bags of pace. He hasn't hit the same heights this year, but against a struggling Southampton side, after Arsenal beat Watford on their travels prior to the international break, this could be the launch pad for Arsenal's season. It looks like a winnable tie, and I would expect that Arsenal will, as usual, dominate possession and create chances, which will give Bellerin opportunities out wide to bag us some points for crosses as well as normal defensive points. Andrew Robertson of Hull for $4,000 is an ever-present in this show. The young fullback is an outstanding player. A tie against Burnley should afford him the opportunity to get forward and earn some attacking points as well as the solid haul of defensive points that he's bagged in every game this season. He has been consistently around this price. He's disappointed us only once so far. And against a Burnley side that don't generate a lot of shots on goal, there are excellent clean sheet opportunities as well. Jose Holebas of Watford for $3,700. Holebas has been deployed almost in a left midfield role for Watford this year, who, despite the lack of goals in the team to this point and the results, have shown some fluidity when going forward with the ball. That wasn't necessarily what they did last year with dogged defensive performances. If Holebas can avoid the referee's book for a change this week, he has been booked in the last couple of games, it will help us out. He certainly added a few shots and crosses to the stat sheet, and that was in games against Chelsea and Arsenal. So there may be even more scope against the Hammers this week for Holebas to add to his normal points haul. And Curtis Davis of Hull for $3,600 is the linchpin in the heart of a solid Hull backline. He is also dangerous at set pieces, which is a key area for this Hull side going forward, and they'll be looking to continue their strong start to the season against Burnley. The presence of Andre Gray, the top scorer in the Championship last year, should mean there'll be plenty enough to do defensively as well, and as a target at corners, he can notch some shots on goal and hopefully stick one in the corner for us as well. Looking at the forward players, Riyad Mahrez of Leicester for $9,800 could be used as a midfielder or a forward. He is the top price midfielder if you choose to go that route with him this week, as the champions head to Anfield to take on Leicester. I still sense that Leicester are likely to be better away from home this year than they are at the King Power, as teams will set up to be difficult to beat against them when they're at home now. There are no surprises with Leicester City this season like last year. And when they're playing on the counter-attack, that can play to the strengths of a player like Mahrez, who hasn't really started this season yet, and neither's Vardy. But using him on the counter uses both those players to full effect, as their pace and quickness was so important to this team last year. If you couple that up with the Liverpool backline that has looked shaky at best so far, and Klopp's propensity for open football games, Mahrez could run wild for the Foxes and bag you a nice haul of points this year. Dimitri Piatt of West Ham, he's a midfielder for $9,400. Piatt was easily the best player for the Hammers last season, was certainly in the conversation for the French as well at the European Championships in the summer. With his fatigue and injury problems behind him now, and Bilic saying that he's available for the Watford game, he can be expected to pick up where he left off. He's an outstanding set piece taker. He will likely cause Watford a lot of problems and is well worth a place in your lineups today. If the price is too expensive for you, it is potentially worth looking at his teammate Michael Antonio, who's also a midfielder for $7,600. Antonio plays out wide, an area area where Watford have looked a little weak defensively. Walcott, I think, ran wild on them in the Arsenal game prior to the international break. In the last few weeks, Antonio has bagged himself a goal in each of the last 2 games, and with Watford unable to keep a clean sheet so far this season, the West Ham forward players are all definitely in play. Andros Townsend of Crystal Palace is a midfielder for 7,600, and as awful as Palace have looked this year, they do have some useful players in fantasy. They have a couple of players out wide that a large percentage of their attacking play works through in Townsend and Zaha. The addition of Benteke up front actually gives them a target to aim at in the box for some potential end product as well. Townsend has contributed at least 7 crosses and double-digit points in every Palace game this year so far. There's no reason to expect that to change in a trip to newly promoted Middlesbrough. Roberto Pereira for 6,700 of Watford. The new signing for Watford came off the bench to score against Arsenal on his debut in the match prior to the international break. He has a touch of quality that the Watford side needs. Hopefully a creative spark to provide some service to Dini and Igalo up front. I'll be stunned if he doesn't start in this game. He tallied over 14 points with the goal in just a half of football against Arsenal. Robert Snodgrass for Hull is an excellent option in a game that Hull will certainly be targeting to win. Snodgrass has showed on opening weekend against Leicester that he's certainly capable in this league. The wide man is heavily involved at set pieces. He puts the ball into the box as well as taking on shots himself. One of the upside plays for Hull that should be included in a lot of lineups, assuming he's recovered from the injury that did cause him to get substituted against Manchester United. And as he's played in the internationals for Scotland midweek, we can only assume he has. Nordin Amrabat of Watford can be used in midfield or as a forward. Now, I know I come across as biased being a Watford fan, but the Watford winger Amrabat, a January signing, has been playing really well in a wide role all season. He's been putting plenty of ball into the box. He's a bargain price as well. You're not going to need too much production at this price to provide you with value, and it enables you to pay up for a superstar elsewhere in your lineup. With Manchester United next week, Watford will be targeting coming away from West Ham with something from the game this week, as they desperately need points after their brutal start to the season so far. Looking at sort of exclusive forwards, Jamie Vardy for Leicester, 9,500, scored an absolute screamer against Liverpool last year. As I said earlier, this game should play to the strengths of Leicester, particularly Vardy and Mahrez. Vardy has got off the mark in the league now, and against a shaky Liverpool backline, in what I think will be an open game, he could probably notch another goal this week. Christian Stuani of Middlesbrough for 7,700, scored a couple of goals on his debut. They now get a home tie against a Crystal Palace side that has been fairly putrid this year. Negredo should draw most of the attention up top for Borough, which could give Stuani the chance for some freedom and opportunity in a winnable game for the newly promoted side. Salomon Rondon of West Brom for 6,700 was fairly ineffective last year. He did only score 9 goals. I think he's their club record signing. He showed the occasional flash. He's got a lot of pace. A match-up against a Bournemouth team that's failed to keep a clean sheet so far this year is good news for Rondon. West Brom are another team that look to play solid counter-attacking football when they're on their travels. That plays to his strengths, and I think he could possibly bag a goal against Bournemouth today. And Abel Hernandez of Hull for 6,600. The main goal threat for Hull, second in the goal scoring standings in the Championship last year. Hernandez has another opportunity against newly promoted rivals Burnley this weekend. He's looked very dangerous for Hull thus far, with a goal and an assist over the first 2 games before a forgivably quiet game against Manchester United last time round. Those are the players that I'll be looking to get into my lineups today. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen in the Premier League today. Let's hope Watford get a win against West Ham. Please like this video. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Give me a follow on Twitter at dansports.tips, and I will see you next week.